What
Okay,
were we
let's go.
talking about?
Um, I can't remember. You took a sleep apnea.
Oh no! I mean, in our
Oh,
last podcast or whatever we're doing here.
yeah. We spoke mainly about DuckTales and the reboot. Also, hello everybody. My name is Amber Jones. This is Terry McGovern, who I'm with for a part two of our episode of In Conversation with ATF. One part wasn't enough, so we're back again to talk about different things than last time.
I'm very honored to be a two-parter.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. Oh,
no, we
forgot the
were talking
pen.
about
Okay.
the rumor that's going around, and it's well founded. It's not a rumor anymore that uh, Darkwing Duck is going to be rebooted, and I'm going through the same anxieties. Although this time I'm kind of ready for it because I don't know. Haven't received any word at all from anybody. I talked to Jim Cummings, who is
Mhm.
Darkwing Duck, and he was doing some testing with them or something. And I haven't called Jim back because you know what? They're either going to cast me or they're not going to cast me. They know I think they know I'm available. I told Jim that. Uh, Sometimes, I mean, I'm geographically not
Mhm.
in Los Angeles, but can be there in a trice.
Will this reboot be a series or will it be a movie? Or
I
will it
have no.
be?
Oh, well, I think it's a series.
Ah, right, okay. I was gonna say, yeah, because I spoke to Dorian Harewood the other night and he said we got onto the subject of Ryan Reynolds because we were talking about Rex and FC. Ryan is making a reboot of Biker Mice from Mars. So him, Ian Zerling, and Rob Paulson have put themselves forward because they were the original voices of Throttle, Vinny,
Well,
and
how
Logo.
does one put oneself forward?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they
What?
went through Ryan's
Who?
agency
Who?
or
Who? Who told you this? Who is this person you were talking to?
Dorian Harewood.
I know that name. Who is he? I'm
He
sorry.
voiced. That's okay. He's a television actor. He's for voice work. He's done. He was Modo and Biker Mice from Mars.
Okay. All right.
So
Good.
they
Well,
reached out to Ryan Reynolds, who's
but
supposedly
I
good.
don't know how to put myself forward to Mr. Seth Rogen, who is the showrunner in this case.
You know something. If Will was
What?
still alive, I would have asked him to pass on a message because he was neighbours with Seth Rogen before he passed away. Will
Oh,
Ryan.
I know you told me that. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
okay. Let's I just gotta what can I do? I throw my hands up. Jim said he would mention me to Seth, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Seth, if you're watching this, please reach out to Terry.
Yeah, I
Please.
mean, if they're going to reboot one actor, why not? But and granted, Jim is the star of the show, but if they're
Yeah.
going, why not bring the whole tribe back? But
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to jinx myself. I'm just going to say I'm ready for whatever Seth wants of me.
Whatever they throw
Seth,
at you.
Seth, I am yours,
Mr. Rogan. Yes. I mean, I
Mr.
remember
Rogan.
I remember because one of my final conversations over email with Will Ryan was when there's a the Super Mario movie that's come out. Seth Rogen was it voiced Donkey Kong in it. So I mentioned it to Will and he was like, typical Hollywood big name casting, and we laughed about it, and that was the last time we spoke, and it was literally about Seth Rogen voicing
Oh,
Donkey Kong. Yeah.
he rejuvenated that one, or he just was cast as Donkey Kong.
What does rejuvenated mean? I'm silly.
Bring to back to life.
Oh right. I don't think he brought him back to life. I mean,
I
just
guess
in what sort of way?
the correct term would be reanimate, wouldn't it?
Most likely, yeah, because in the video games, Donkey Kong never spoke.
Ah,
Yeah. So then you've got yeah.
isn't that what Mary Shelley called the monster?
I think so. Yeah.
He had
Yes.
to be
Yeah.
reanimated. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's just fingers crossed, hope that the casting gods are on my side, and I
Yeah.
get to be Launchpad again. Okay, we
Yeah.
settled that. Now,
Yeah.
what else?
Definitely.
What else?
I'd like to talk to you now. Of course, we have got coming up that's been officially announced, and I can say this now. TFCon in Los Angeles in March, coming up in March, there will be a Generation One reunion.
That's me,
Exactly. That's why I brought it
right?
up.
Oh, well, I'm
You voiced Wildrider.
I don't know. I got to talk to my agent about it. Yeah, we'll see. I hope so. I hope I'm included in that little package deal.
I think he will. I think they
Listen,
should get like all the
I'm coming.
surviving
I'm
cast
very
members.
needy this morning. I need parts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think they dropped very subtle hints that Peter and Frank will be going as well, so you'll get to
Who
see
will?
them if Peter Cullen and Frank Welker,
Oh,
Optimus and Megatron.
yeah, the big
Yeah.
guys. The big
Yeah,
guys.
so I think they'll be getting everyone from the surviving G1 cast. I think main cast as well. I know there's people who had guest spots and stuff, but then you got like, of course, you got you, Peter and Frank, Dan Gilvezan, Neil Ross, Michael Bell, all these surviving cast members and stuff. So I think it'd be really fun.
Y- I lost track of what you were talking about.
Sorry, I was just
You mentioned all these actors' names in connection with what?
Transformers. They were all in Generation One, the
Okay.
first cartoon. Yeah, so they will most likely be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Ah.
I mean, you have done before. Obviously, we go into the Transformers. You have done TFCon before, the Los Angeles one that happened this
Yes, I did.
March,
I did it
March
last year.
2023.
I was literally on my way to Toronto when I was stricken with severe back pain and had to cancel. It was really horrible, really horrible. I was really looking forward to it, and well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm just I have cast my fate to the winds with you, Amber. You know what I mean? I mean, whatever
Yeah.
happens, I know that you're on my side, and that's all that
Yeah, of
really
course.
counts.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Actually, I was going to
I
ask.
appreciate it.
You're welcome. What is the TF Con at Los Angeles like? Because it's the biggest one out of all the TF cons that they hold, and obviously I will be attending, so this will be my first time. So, what was the Los Angeles one like for
Well,
you
it
in
was
Burbank?
I've been to bigger cons, you know, but this was a very specific con, and it was in the hotel. So
Mhm.
I couldn't give you a guess of how many people. I do know that the line for Peter Cullen went out of the hotel and down the street.
Oh my word!
You know, because it's almost across the street from the Burbank airport,
Yeah,
and as far as you could see. And then they after the signing in the evening, they had a big celebration focusing on him in one of the big ballrooms. He's very, very popular, and he's a lovely man. He is a
yeah.
really sweet guy. I hadn't seen him in years, and I jumped in. I got ahead of everybody and jumped in with a something for him to sign, and he was really
Oh,
startled at first. He went, "What the hell? Who's this guy? Oh my, it's Launchpad." So we
did
had
you
a chance to
really?
speak for just a quick second, but he's a great guy. And Frank Welker, you know, I love Frank. So let's hope that we're all there.
Yeah, everyone is
Okay,
here.
every
I'm hoping.
please bring us
How
all
many
together.
how many days is it until I fly out? I've got to check now. It is 134 days until I fly out because I'm recording this on the 25th of October.
You're
100.
counting the days, literally counting the
I've got a
days.
count. I've got a countdown app that has like I put all the events in there or cons that I'm going to, and I have them all on my countdown app, and it just tells me how long until California.
Is this the first time you've been to the States? Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well,
So
that's great. It's you're gonna like it here.
oh,
I I
I'm so
think.
excited. I am so
Yeah,
excited.
it is a strange little country.
Yeah.
We're very we're very quaint here, you know.
Yeah, honestly, I'm excited personally. Actually, who else did you meet at TFCon? Because I think Sue Blue was there as well. Yeah, she
Nah,
was. Yeah, I'm trying to
yeah,
think who else was there.
yeah. I saw Sue. I saw Sue last year at the Burbank. Well, let's talk about something that what would you like to talk about?
Um, can we keep talking about Transformers? Only because we haven't. I don't think I ever asked you about the recording sessions in the 80s for Transformers with like the whole cast and Wally Bird. Do you remember much of it?
I remember. I'll tell you what I remember. I only remember one session. I mean, I
Mhm.
know there were several, but the
Yeah.
one session I remember was because Roger C. Carmel was there.
Uh-huh.
Roger C. Carmel was gained some serious TV notoriety because there was a show called Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
This was prior to Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Gene Roddenberry, and it was a well done show. And William Shatner was Kirk. He was in
Yeah.
charge of
Yeah, and
the
Leonard Nimoy
Enterprise.
was in it as well. Yeah.
And but Roger C. Carmel had a part on there. I don't remember what his character's name was, but they had,
Bruticus.
huh? No, they had
was
little characters called Tribbles, and the name of the show was The Trouble with Tribbles, and Roger C. Carmel was the star. Now, Roger was a big, full-faced guy with a big, gigantic mustache, and just a wonderful character. And all I remember is being in the waiting room with him and a couple other actors, and just laughing ourselves senseless, which is part of the fun of being a voice actor, especially, when you got a gig and you show up and all your buds are there, and don't have to compete with each other anymore because everyone's got a part now. And I miss that. I miss that a lot. And of course, for the recording sessions themselves, I don't recall if it was ensemble with the G1 Transformers, but certainly DuckTales and Darkwing Duck was just deluxe. It was most of Darkwing Duck I did up here in San Francisco. Phone Patch, we talked about that. But the first show, DuckTales, I was still living in Los Angeles, and I could drive over the hill and park my car and go into the building with the 7 dwarfs holding it up, and go into one of these wonderful Disney studios and sit down with some of the most talented people I've ever met in my life, and they were all in one room, and I was with them, and it was great fun. I likened it to a chamber orchestra. Had that same feel, All we needed was a cellist and perhaps a viola.
Big soundproof room. That actually reminds me, because when I went to Media City, which is like a massive television sort of production complex in Manchester, they took me into, I think, mainly where the BBC record their philharmonic, like, orchestra stuff. They took me into this room, and it was just, you couldn't even hear anyone else. It was so soundproof. They had foam all over the walls, and it was like a massive long corridor that kind of like went like in a sort of zigzag shape, but it was so quiet. They record like radio plays in there. It is perfect. It would be perfect for voiceover, honestly.
Those absolutely sealed rooms, whisper rooms, they sometimes call them. Oh, actually, there is a portable one now that's available, but prefab. You just put the walls up, and it's got special fabric inside it and all that. And I've worked in those. But a really, truly perfectly engineered acoustic room is, it the moment you walk in, because suddenly it's like, what's that noise? Oh no, it's an absence of noise. That's what it is. Because we filter out this stuff that we hear normally. And I've never been able to come up with my own studio completely soundproof. This isn't the one I use if I'm doing an audio book or a video game. I have a quieter room, but this is nice because it's right in my house and I can relax, and it's more like being on the telephone. But the recording sessions were great, and we had both. First, Andrea Romano was in charge of us directorially, and then after I came up here back home to San Francisco, and I was doing Phone Patch with Jenny McSwain. And two just incredibly talented directors. And you're making me nostalgic now.
Sorry.
What if I don't get cast in the reboot?
Oh, sorry. I meant, like, sorry for making you cry. Like, nostalgic, that's fine, but, like, I don't want to make you cry.
Wait a minute. How would Launchpad cry? Oh, that's too real. That's too real.
Real's much better. It's better if it's real.
No, well, Launchpad should never ever cry.
No.
That's a grim world to live in, where Launchpad is crying.
Yeah.
So what else? What else have we got to discuss here?
Well, of course, I've got to bring up that you've worked with Robin Williams more than once. You worked with him on Mork and Mindy. You were in one episode of that show.
Yeah, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
was. He was. I'm happy to say he was a friend. I mean, I knew him well enough to call him a friend.
Mm.
Uh, we didn't hang out and barbecue at each other's houses or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
when it was time, and we were friends through work. And the first time I met him, I think I told you the story. I picked him up. He was hitchhiking, and in those days, it wasn't unusual to pick somebody up if they,
Mm-hmm.
I was young and I see this young guy on the side of the road and he's dressed in kind of goofy hippie clothes. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, looks like my kind of guy." And I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to Mill Valley." And he jumped in the car. We went across the Golden Gate Bridge and had a wonderful conversation during which he spoke in a Scottish accent. Everything was done in here like a cracking great. Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Where are you from? I'm from Glasgow. I'm Glaswegian. And that was the conversation. I took him all the way to the Baskin and Robbins in Mill Valley, where he worked, said goodbye. 2 weeks later, I'm doing stand up at the Holy City Zoo, which was kind of the room in San Francisco. Stand up comedy was just kind of starting.
Yeah.
And I got off the stage and I could hear a commotion, so I knew that they were getting ready for the next guy to come on. And the MC bounces up on the stage and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, Robin Williams." And Robin passes me and he gets this close to me and he looks at me and says, "Hey, how you doing?" No Scottish burr. And I said, "Well, you little devil, you." And he laughed and jumped on the stage and proceeded to be brilliant. And he was really fun to see in those days. He was really out of his mind. But everybody knew this guy is destined for big stuff.
Yeah.
And so when he landed Mork and Mindy, nobody was surprised. And then years later, he was married to a woman named Marcia Garces, and Marcia, as his wife, took a very active role in casting Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mm-hmm.
She came up with the idea that Robin should cast all of his old friends from San Francisco, the guys he used to hang with and improvise with.
Wow.
And
Uh-huh.
that's how I got onto that show. I mean, I had to audition for it, for the part of the ADR director in the beginning of the film,
Yeah.
but it was made possible through Marcia's good idea that give your buddies some work.
Oh
And boy,
wow. I didn't know that's how you got cast in it. I thought it was just like a general audition or something like that.
oh
But
no, I auditioned. No. We auditioned. We all auditioned.
yeah,
But
but
we
like
but we had and I was told this by the casting director,
mm-hmm.
Nancy Hayes. She just happened to mention it. She said after the audition, she said, "Oh, they're going to like that." And Marcia's has a real interest in seeing that all you guys get cast. So yeah, I mean, it definitely helped. It helped big time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
what I meant was like I thought my initial thought was that you auditioned like, as like a general casting call, like not knowing. I didn't know that you knew Robin pretty much before you told me in the last part.
Yeah, but yeah, the way I remember the story was that
Mm-hmm.
Marcia, his wife,
Yeah.
came up with the idea that he should make sure that all of his
Yeah.
friends were seen. And he said, "Absolutely. Great idea, honey."
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't there, but I assume that's what he said. Good idea, dear. And it was. And I'm happy. And it was a fun job. I was a 14-hour day with him. And I was exhausted by the time I got home that night. Boundless energy. Although he had a way of conserving his energy too. He would uh, one of the grips on the movie. It was the last day of shooting. The first
Mm-hmm.
scene of the movie, it was shot the last day,
Ah.
and I was talking to this grip, one of the crew, and he was kind of like real tired. And I said, "Are you okay?" He says, "I'm just exhausted with this guy." I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, he's like a pinwheel. He's like this, and then the wheel comes to a rest." and then it goes off again. And he was absolutely right, because that's the way Robin was. If he was performing, he was performing, and when he wasn't performing, he was just a regular person. Hi, why are you doing? And very interested in people, very compassionate guy, kind of guy. If you didn't know he was Robin Williams, you'd still want to hang out with him.
Yeah,
nice man. Yeah, we lost a big guy there, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's
how I got a part on the movie, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, I'll tell you, to be in part of that. The movie originally was going to follow my character.
Really?
No, I just.
I just remembered. Yeah, I found out a really fun fact about Robin. On the set of Mork and Mindy, they had to hire a translator in 4 different languages because Robin kept trying to slip in foreign swear words in other languages into the script as improv. So they had to do it so it would go. They would kind of catch on because he would do it unnoticed.
Well, I won't doubt that, but I also know that he was great, just phenomenal at gibberish. So
Yeah.
he could make it. We used to do the thing that I got to do with Robin every week. I was in the Comedy Store Players, eponymously named, right there on Sunset Boulevard, Mitzi Shore. God rest her crazy soul. She was wonderful. And so we had pretty big cast. We had about 8 people in the cast, and it was on Monday nights and Tuesday nights that we performed there in the main room, because they were off nights, and Mitzi wanted to get some action in there, and put us up as the Comedy Store Players. And Robin would show up more often than not on a Monday night. I think we did Mondays and Tuesdays, and for some reason or other, he was free Mondays, and he would just show up, and the room would fill. I mean, you couldn't get a seat anywhere near the place. But the thing that we did, it's a part of the improvisational games as put together by Viola Spolin, and it's called Poet Translator, and it's a very simple premise. I would come out on stage and say, give me a nationality, any nationality. And somebody would say, Swedish. Okay, Swedish. And now give me the title of a poem. And people are, it's an improv setting, so everybody's ready with suggestions. My sister ate my lunch. Okay, and then I would disappear, and no, actually, I would stay there and say, okay, now the poet laureate of Sweden, Sven's Brusnik, and my sister ate my lunch. And he would come out and do Swedish gibberish, and I would translate. And it was improvisation, because he wasn't really saying anything, and it was funny that I translated it. And it always got just great laughs. It was like, you're in a situation like that with Robin Williams, you're going to get a lot of laughs. It's going to be very, very funny. And every once in a while, if I got off a particularly good line, he'd run over and hug me, and then go back to his place on stage. He just loved performing, and he loved performers, his friends, his actor friends, and his comic friends. He was, I keep coming back to him. He was sensational. I don't have a bad word to say about the man.
I don't think anyone ever did have a bad word to say about him.
No one. I never ever heard Robin Williams. Oh, that creep. No, it never left anybody's lips, anybody who was sane anyway. Yeah. But he was, and you could see him. I lived in Marin County at the time, and so did he. And so I'd see him a lot at Mike's Bike Shop down in Fairfax, this little town that I lived in. And he was on his bike a lot. I mean, he really was a serious bicyclist, off by himself out in West Marin, all over the place. And he's a hell of an athlete. But that's where he serviced his bicycle. And I would see him a couple times there. We'd run and get a cup of coffee or something. And then he'd jump on his bike and off he'd go. He was a good athlete and very strong, incredibly strong. we used to we would get hecklers, but not nasty hecklers, just people who wanted to get a rise out of Robin.
Yeah.
But there was one thing that actually really infuriated him, and that was when you come out on stage and you're trying to get suggestions from the audience, and some bozo doesn't want to be part of that. He wants instead to get Robin's attention. And one of the favorite ways of doing it was somebody would go, burr, burr, which was the way he talked, right? In Orc.
Yeah.
Are we still together on this? Yes.
Yeah.
And one time, some guy would not stop doing it, and we had already started our scene. Mm-hmm. And I saw a look in his face that I had never seen before, and suddenly he came to the edge of the stage and roared at this guy like he was going to kill him, and we all grabbed him. So it was play, but when we grabbed him, everybody kind of went, "What the hell?" This guy was, I mean, he had the strength of 10 men. He almost lifted us up off the stage, you know. Fortunately, he did not jump on the man. He wasn't really homicidal, but he hated that sound, somebody doing that to him. He said, "Come on, you can come up with something better than that, can't you?" But the guy did stop. I think Robin scared him. Great guy. Great guy.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't do anything. He's just amazing. Obviously, I never met him, but honestly, from what everyone's told me, he is a legend. He still is a legend, you know. What an amazing man. We lost too soon.
He did really important. His was an important life, a really important life. If you measure life by what you do for others.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a little vermished here.
That's okay.
So anyway,
let's take a breather.
Who else can we talk about?
Well, the final thing I'd like to talk to you about is because you only said you had half an hour, right?
We're doing okay. We're doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing okay. The last thing I'm interested in talking about is The Greatest Adventure: Stories from the Bible, where you voiced Derek, and I've just found out you were not the only Derek. Daryl Hickman took over the role from you. So
who did?
Daryl Hickman. Daryl Hickman.
I thought I did the whole Bible. I thought I covered the Bible.
It says Terry McGovern, Derek, 1985 to 1989. Daryl Hickman, Derek, 1989 to 1992.
Yeah. Well, that's because in 88 I moved back up here to my ancestral home.
Right. So, I see.
That was cast by the great Gordon
Hunt.
Thank you very much. God Almighty, Gordon Hunt. Yeah. Melinda's father. Yes.
Yeah, Helen Hunt's father.
father.
Helen Hunt's father. Yes.
A complete botch of all that.
That's okay.
Yeah, he was a good guy too. And they had another guy over there, a producer named Alex Lovey. He was an older gentleman, and he cast me in some things. We're talking about Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
And did I ever tell you about the time? Did I ever tell you about the time that I was a guest star on the Jetsons?
No, you didn't. No.
The Jetsons had been gone for some years. And they decided to do, I think it was in 85, they decided to do just one show, but it was going to be a big hour-long show and kind of a reemergence of the Jetsons.
Yeah.
And I got cast to do a part on that show. And as we were talking about earlier, you work ensemble. It's a group of actors sitting around in a circle. And each one of us has a microphone and a stand with our scripts on it.
Yeah.
So I walk into the room and it's full. It's a full cast of people there. There must have been 10 or 12 people in the room. And Penny Singleton, who played
Jane.
Yeah. She was sort of the den mother. And she decades before that, in the 40s, had been Blondie in a comedy series that they made, I don't know, maybe a dozen movies called Dagwood. No, it was called Blondie. It was called Blondie. It was named after her, but Dagwood was the goofy lead character. Anyway, Penny Singleton's came in and was making nice with everybody. And she turned to me at one point and she said, and now cast, and these were all the regulars. She says, and now cast, our guest is Terry McGovern. And there, 2 places away from me, is Dawes Butler. I'm invoking these names for those people who know big animation names.
Yeah.
Dawes Butler was Hanna-Barbera. And then what was his name? Messick?
Don Messick.
Yeah, Don Messick was
the dog.
He was the second voice at Hanna-Barbera. But what almost, literally made me gasp was I looked to this side and there was Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc.
I'm looking around at people like, what is going? That's Mel Blanc, I'm saying to people. And these are older actors, who've been working on the Jetsons. Yeah, we know he's a cast member, but he's Mel Blanc, and he was sleeping. In those days, you could smoke cigarettes in a recording session, if you can imagine such a thing. And he had a cigarette in a cigarette holder, and he was sitting in front of his microphone like this. I don't know if you can see, my eyes are closed.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
I thought, my God, is he unconscious? What's the matter? And it was time to start the show, and we're going to run through our lines. And I did something that I should not have done. I looked ahead to see where he was going to talk. I should have just minded my business, kept my eyes on my own script. But I then started to get nervous because I realized, well, in 3 pages, he has a line. In 2 pages, he has a line. And he hasn't moved. He's just like this. This is the page. He's got it. And as it came time for his line, he went like this. So what do you think I should do about that? Or whatever the line was. And exchanged 1 or 2 lines and then went back to sleep. I swear as I sit here, that's exactly what happened. He was very old, but he still had the instincts and the voices, and everything was there. And I did get a chance to talk to him, but he wasn't very, talkative. He was pretty to himself, but he was very polite. But wow. I could not. And he knew what was going on. He was totally aware of what was going on. And he knew what the cue was for his line. And as soon as he heard it, his head came up and he gave his line.
That was amazing. Yeah.
That's Mel Blanc. Mel.
All the Looney Tunes.
Yeah, the voice of Looney Tunes. All of those voices, all of them, done by one man.
Yeah.
Remember that, Seth Rogen. Voice loyalty.
Nowadays, they've got to get at least 5 voice actors to cover all of Mel's roles. That's how amazing.
Oh, they do. Yeah, they use several guys to do his voices. One, I think, for a while was his son, Mel Blanc Jr. But I'm not sure. That's another studio. They're down the road.
Yeah, Noel Blanc. Yeah, he used to do it for a little bit.
Yeah. But that was a real exciting moment to work with Mel Blanc and Don Messick and Dawes Butler. And Dawes was having trouble, he had some problems and cognitive problems, and Penny Singleton sat next to him and helped him. When it was his turn to talk, if he was having trouble, she'd whisper the line in his ear, and it would come out of him and everything would be okay. It was very touching. It really was, to see all these old timers together, probably for the last time. The Jetsons. It was some kind of anniversary show. First Comic-Con I did was Pensacola in 2019.
Why is it only that recently?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I haven't done that many. Less than a dozen. And some guys have been doing them for years and years and years. Well, I don't know. I thought I told you the story, but in any event, Neary calls the guy that runs Celebworks, and he said, Terry McGovern. Oh, I got you. I said, yeah, that's my phone. I answered it. He said, well, we thought you were dead. Because DuckTales had been done 25 years ago or something. So he was right to think that I might be, but I'm glad he was wrong. He said, well, Terry, I represent actors who go to Comic Cons and would like to represent you.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of, one of those periods of your life where you don't want to do nothing. I was just sitting around doing nothing. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't like flying. He said, give it one shot. I said, okay. And I went to Pensacola and had the time of my life. And I said, my God, where did all these people come? There were like 20,000 people there. That's a good size,
Yeah.
But I was hooked. I said, yeah, please book me again. This is fun. Yeah. And the people are great. I particularly like people who will dress like a character. And I had some people come up to me who were dressed like the mom was Launchpad, and then the little kid was a television set. And, yeah, it was wonderful. But what gets you is the importance that people put on us, our characters, and our shows. It meant a lot to them. And I had a real big guy come to me one time in Sacramento. Big guy, I mean, 6'5" maybe, and a big deep voice. And he said, you saved my life. Did I tell this story already? Because for a second, I feel like I'm with my family. Dad, you've already told this. Anyway, I'll tell it. And if I've told it, you can edit it.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't know. I don't think you did.
Okay. But
I finally had. It's nice to hear it again.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
But anyway, this big young man stood there, and I could see tears in his eyes. And I said, "What? What? Having presence of mind to say that." And he said, "No, when I was a kid, I was bullied." I said, well, you must have had a late growth spurt. He said, no, I've always been big. And kids can be so rotten cruel, but they picked on him. And because he was not an aggressive personality, he didn't fight back. And so they thought he was an easy mark, and they would pick on him and bully him and cause all kinds of problems. And I had my share of that when I was a kid. I went to a lot of different schools, and you always had to prove yourself to the new gang. So I sympathized with him. But he said, I just got home as fast as I could so I could watch DuckTales and whatever other shows that he was into at the time. And he said, I forgot about all my problems. I sat down on the couch and had a good laugh and enjoyed myself, and didn't have to think about being picked on by a bunch of idiots. But he said, it really saved my life. That's a large statement. Yeah. And it was a good show. It was such a good show. The animation was wonderful. And the cast was pretty terrific.
Stella.
Frank Welker, Mr. Cullen.
June Foray.
Who?
June Foray.
Oh, June Foray. Yeah, we talked about her, June Foray.
Yeah.
She lived to be 100.
I know. Yeah. That's really impressive, honestly, I think.
But so the cons, they're good, they're fun. You get to hang with your buddies and who you don't see but once or twice a year. And I hope to go to the one in March if I'm invited.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I think you will.
I think so.
I've just found out TFCon Toronto is on next July, I think.
I didn't understand what you said.
Sorry, that's me.
Every once in a while, you speak Manchesterese. And it sounds like this.
I've just seen on social media that TFCon Toronto is happening again next year in July.
We'll see if I get invited to that. I hope so.
Yeah.
I
I
hope
hope you
so.
do go to the LA one. I think it would be really lovely to meet you in person.
Well, I got my back problem kind of under control, but it
Yeah, I
was
was I was gonna ask how are you with it?
it's fine. It's good. I'm much better. I've been doing, exercises and things, and I probably might get a shot. Although I'm trying to stay away from shots and surgeries and things like that, and just see if I can do it on my own. Exercise is the key to everything,
Yeah.
and so walking, I can walk, to the moon and back. I love walking, and that helps tremendously.
Yeah. Helps me too, honestly. Like, walking, running, cycling, going anywhere really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have to if you want to stay alive. I'm watching a series right now, Living to Be 100,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy, a bicyclist, is a young man, and he's now, I think, in his early 60s, and he made a show, I think 5 episodes, traveled all over the world to these blue zones that he named them because in his research he found out that there were pockets of longevity, and one was, as you might expect, in Greece,
Mm-hmm.
near the Turkey border, and there was the very first one was Okinawa, which was one of the most horrible battles of World War II, was fought
Mm-hmm.
on those islands on Okinawa. But they have more people, centenarians, they're called, than anywhere else in the world. And there's one place in America where people statistically live longer than anywhere else, and that's Loma Linda. That's where President Nixon was from, Loma
Mm.
Linda, California. And the Adventist faith, Seventh-day Adventists,
Yeah.
that's kind of their town. And they have pretty strict rules about how to live and what to eat. They have the Adventist diet, which is mostly plant-based. And they have a tremendous, amount of people who live over 100. So
Wow.
I'm going to give it a shot, see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, see
Yeah.
what happens. Yeah. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you, Terry.
I'm rooting for you too. I
Aww.
I don't think I'll be around to see you at 100, but I hope you make it too. I hope you also make it.
Bless you. Bless you. Thinking into the future sometimes, well, no, when I say sometimes, I mean all the time, it scares me. It really does, honestly. No matter what it is, whether it's next week, tomorrow, it scares me.
What is that you said? I did not
I
understand.
I
I don't know
I
whether I'm losing my. I
no,
didn't
no,
have trouble understanding you before.
I
Why am
just
I
talk
having
too
trouble now?
fast. I just talk too fast. That's
Oh,
why.
okay. All right.
Um,
Well, thank you. What did you say?
Sometimes I'm afraid of the future, no matter if I'm thinking of what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next year. It just scares me. So I'm just taking it a day at a time, just
You are you're in a very large pool of people who
yeah.
are worried about things. The
Yeah.
only thing you can come away with is somehow, and this is not logical, it's just rationalizing, but we've been here this long, we've been through stuff just like this, and we
Yeah.
seem to come out the other end.
Yeah.
But
It's a hell of a
what's
lot.
going on right now in the Middle East is just horrible. And
Yeah.
Ukraine, it looks like that's never going to stop. And
Mm.
so you have every right to be apprehensive and fearful of things.
Yeah.
But we just got to hope that the people who are in charge, and there are people in charge of things, we hope that they're sensible
Yeah.
and get the world back to hopefully some kind of peaceful resolution.
Yeah.
It's mo better when there's peace, much more
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a lot better. Yeah. So my last question to you, Terry, the little big question I want to ask you is,
The big one.
are you still involved in well, I know you said last time, are you still involved in radio? Would you like to go back into the radio business? Because I know you said you weren't doing your show anymore.
No, no.
Okay.
Casey Kasem was.
Yeah.
Casey Kasem was the guy that for years did American Top 40.
Yeah.
And he had a voice kind of like this. Well, hi, this is Casey Kasem. And he worked all the time. He was a very, very successful guy. But he had been a disc jockey. And for a while, he had been a disc jockey here in the Bay Area before I got here. And but he knew me, he knew my background. So when I would see him in Los Angeles at various functions or maybe a recording session, he would always say to me, Terry, you're not getting back in the booth, are you? It was like I was a brother in arms. I'm a fellow radio guy. And he wanted to make sure that I didn't, now that I was a successful actor, that I wouldn't do anything stupid like go back into radio. And I always said, no, I don't think so. But after that, I did. I did go back to radio, and it was fine. The problem with it is now that it's just, there's not much regard for radio. Yeah, people listen to it, sort of, kind of, but nothing like it used to be listened to.
Yeah.
The appliance itself, that radio, used to be in every house, almost in every room, there was a radio. Like a computer, a screen. It was a radio, and people listened to these radios. And for a large part of the population, they listened to usually one station. And if you happen to be on that one station that everybody listened to, you got great ratings and you made a ton of money. But radios, we don't need them anymore. And they're just falling one by one. The call signs, the call letters. KGO, 50,000 watts, one of the first talk stations in the country, big powerhouse in San Francisco, is now a gambling station. They fired everybody and just brought in this, I think it comes out of Las Vegas. And it's people sitting around talking about the odds on games.
Yeah.
And it's really, and here's another one. Another nail in the coffin. Automobile manufacturers apparently are not putting AM radios in the new electric cars because the AM wave, and this is third hand, the AM wave somehow interferes with the electronics of the electronic car.
Yeah.
So no more AM radio. They'll have FM, but AM was that's most of AM radio's success was in the car when people were on their way to work or coming home. But now they bye-bye.
Yeah.
Adios. It was fun. I'm glad I got to be in it when I was in it, when you could make a really good living and reach a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And there's something intimate about it too. You can nobody does this anymore, but you could play on it. You could imagine things. You could bring in sound effects and music and create a little scene, and it would be different in everybody's head. Each person saw it somewhat differently. I remember somebody, I used to do this particular character on my show, and I met somebody outside at a convention or somewhere, and he said, boy, I know just what it looks like in your place. I said, you mean the studio? Yeah, but it's not a studio, is it? I picture a stage with like an orchestra piece. Wow. But people can do that with radio because there's no one telling them this is specifically what it looks like.
Yeah.
And that's fun. Theater of the mind, they called it. So to answer your question, I don't think so. I maybe if I could do it at home, got my microphone here. It's called tracking. But then you're not really live. I liked being live on the radio. Say something that came out. Huh?
I think a lot of people do it from home.
Not live. By live, I mean to interact with your audience.
Oh, right, yeah.
You can't do it. Oh, you could if you had special lines brought in.
Yeah.
But I used to use the phones a lot. People would call in, and I would mess with them, and they would mess with me, and we had great fun. I just don't think it's as much fun as it used to be. It doesn't sound like it's much fun.
Yeah.
We were allowed to do an awful lot. It was really free ranging. But now everybody's kind of squished into a certain time frame. You can have so many seconds to say this, and you have to say what's written here. And the spontaneity has gone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, spontaneity.
See, spontaneity.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Do you know of a job opening?
I wish I did. Honestly, like I see all these job things for radio.
See what a phony I am. See what a phony I am. What? You have a job? Yeah, I'm going back. I'll do another show.
Yeah, honestly,
No,
it just kind of makes because we have a few radio stations in my local area, but to be a presenter on them and stuff, you need at least 5 years experience.
Yeah.
I think that's something I'd be good at or something like that. I don't know.
You'd be wonderful at it. You'd be wonderful at it.
Yeah.
But that old thing about you have to have experience for 5 years. Okay. I can't be on the radio until I've had 5 years experience.
Yeah.
Where would I go to get that 5 years?
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
And that's why internships were good. The stations I worked at always had interns. I always felt kind of bad for them though, because they weren't getting paid anything. It was usually a credit in their college course or something. And but I know some that went on to finally land a job at a radio station and become real radio people. But I've just lost touch with it all, and I don't listen to it anymore. It's hard to want to be on something that is so outdated. You listen to radio? You said that you have a few there, right?
Yeah, I listen to it when I'm in the car.
BBC. You've got BBC One, and if I'm not mistaken, BBC Two.
Yes, BBC Radio 1 and Radio 2.
Is Capital still one of the stations? Yeah. I knew a guy named Johnny Walker. That was his real name. And he came over to the States. This is way back, and knew somebody at the radio station I worked at. Oh. And they said, well, why don't we put Johnny on in the morning and while Terry's in England? And I was my wife and I were going to England for vacation. And I got to go to Capital and meet with them, and they wanted to know if I wanted to work on radio there. And I said, no, thank you, but no, I want to get home to San Francisco and do my radio show. Yeah. But Johnny was great. He, I think he's still around. Johnny Walker.
He might be. Radio. He might be. I'm gonna check.
Well, darling, this has been more fun than a bag full of monkeys.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
I don't know where that came from. I mean, that's terrifying to think about, isn't it? It doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah, it sounds a bit weird. Not weird, but just something.
What's
unreal.
that?
I'd say it's something. I wouldn't say it's weird, but it would be unreal, maybe.
Unreal. Yeah, let's leave it at unreal. Amber, you're a wonderful person. I love talking with you. I hope I didn't. I hope I made some kind of sense, and thank you for apart the tooth. And I will say it one more time, Seth Rogen. I'm the original Launchpad. Thank you. That's it.
I'm gonna do obviously the thank you for watching. So don't just stay there until I say bye, if that's okay.
I will.
Okay, sweet. So, to you at home, thank you so much for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF. This was part 2 of the Terry McGovern saga franchise series.
The saga. I love it.
The Terry McGovern saga.
In a world before time, there lived a man who did voices.
Yeah, he was a bird. He was a car. He was ADR director Lou. Abba-da-bee, blank off, Lou. That was Robin's. Did I tell you that they shot that movie 2 different ways? Did they?
Mrs. Doubtfire. The agreement with Chris Columbus, the director, and Robin was, and Chris had written Mrs. Doubtfire. I believe he was the screenwriter and the director. So naturally, he wanted his words to be said, and Robin said, why don't we do, and he would go off. Robin would just go off and start improvising. So they came to an agreement. It's time to do scene 17A. All right.
Yeah.
And Robin gets in front of the camera and does it as written.
Yeah.
Until Chris says, print, we got it. Then they would do the scene again, and Robin was allowed to do anything he wanted.
Wow.
And he had all the material. He knew where the scene had to go, what essentially had to be accomplished, but he could do it improvisationally. And I don't know how much of his takes made the final cut, but the scene that I was in, they were all his takes, all of them, because he was constantly improvising, constantly making things up. And then it was in a follow-up movie that Chris wrote, and Robin was one of the stars of, and it was called 9 Months. And it starred Hugh Grant. And the girl was gosh. Oh, why do I block on her name? The little red-headed person.
Julianne Moore?
Julianne Moore, thank you. You saved my life. Yes, Julianne Moore. And I got to play the anesthesiologist in that.
Ooh.
And I'm a doctor, and I've got, and it was a real needle. What women get when they get a spinal, or when anybody gets a spinal, they use these gigantic syringes. In fact, they keep it under lock and key. It's like a gun on a set.
Oh.
And a nurse armorer came to me and said, all right, here's the syringe. Don't play around with it. Just do this. And I had to put it up in front of my face and act like I was drawing, medicine into the syringe. And Robin's face is right next to it, and he faints. That was in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, when the previews came out, the trailers came out, that was the scene. And I was getting phone calls from people I hadn't heard from in decades saying, you're starring in a movie with Robin Williams? I said, no, I'm in one scene. That's the scene. Everything you see in that preview, that's my contribution to the movie. But it was nice to be thought of as a Robin Williams co-star.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a good movie. It didn't have nearly the success as Mrs. Doubtfire, but it's a cute movie. I like it. 9 Months.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Mrs. Doubtfire was shot in San Francisco as well.
It was shot actually in Berkeley.
Berkeley,
in the Fantasy Building. Fantasy Records was owned and operated by one Saul Zantz.
But I think the exterior of the house was filmed in San Francisco.
Oh, that was on Steiner Street.
Oh, was
it? The guy went crazy after allowing them to use his house.
Oh, right.
Then he showed back up, and the interior of that house was
it is San Francisco. Yeah.
No, the interior of the house, they built a set in Emeryville.
I meant the exterior, the outside.
But they did enough in the house, the actual house. When a film crew comes into your house, they're not deliberately barbarians, but they tend to be barbarians because they're ripping up carpet and they're moving things and redirecting the electricity. They do a lot of stuff. They mess with your house, and they pay you very, very well for that privilege. And this guy was paid well, but it dragged out for a while. He kept suing and trying to get more money. Yeah. But the house itself was definitely right at the corner of Steiner and Broadway. I can't remember. But
it's literally Google. It's a tourist attraction. Mrs. Doubtfire's house.
What's that?
It's on Google. It's listed as a tourist attraction. Mrs. Doubtfire's
it is
house.
most definitely. Yeah, I did a series when I was. I had a television. I contributed to a television show, packages, little light moments, and I came up with making a list of all the famous locations where movies were shot in San Francisco, and it kept me busy for a couple of months. A lot of locations in San Francisco. Lots of locations.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find distance from. I'm trying to think. You have to bear with me. I'm trying to find out because I know Full House, the exterior of the house, was in San Francisco as well. So I'm just trying to find out the distance.
Well, they had the interior set was in Emeryville, but they were still in the house. They were doing things in the house. let's see. The house.
It's only 4 minutes. 4 minutes from the house.
What's
From
only 4 minutes?
4 minutes from each other. 2640 Steiner Street, the outside of Mrs Doubtfire's house, the exterior.
Yeah,
And
2640. Yeah.
yeah, and 2640. That's actually it's because we say it differently over here. And then you've got 179 Broderick Street, San Francisco, which
For
is
what?
that was used as the exterior for the house from the series Full House.
Oh,
Yeah,
Saget show, Bob Saget show.
Bob Saget. Yeah. It's literally just around the corner from it.
That was another kick in the head. Jeez, oh man, Bob Saget, so young,
I know, yeah. And
so
then
absolutely
we
brilliant, just brilliant.
found out what happened to him because I think it was like something like he slipped in his hotel room and he ended up like hurting himself, and then it caused I don't
And
know,
he
but it
didn't
was
wake
something
up.
like this. I know, like
It. We are very fragile. We must remember that we are fragile.
it's so sad, just these people. I mean, I think he was like 60, so he was 65.
60, if that. It might have been 62. I don't know. Why quibble? Who knows? He was too damn young. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, love.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on my way. Thank you
That's
very
okay.
much. You're a new friend, and I hope one for a long, long, long time. And I hope I get to see you in March in person.
That's
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Right. I was going to just quickly say, thank you for watching. We'll see you around. Bye and
Bye-bye.
cut.